Hi, Keith Livingston here from Healthy Intelligent Training. Today we're talking with Danny Boltz, who was a very, very good runner for Australia and Switzerland in the 80s. And he grew up in Sydney, in Hornsby, and has been running since he's about 10 years old. And we'll be talking about whatever happened to Danny Boltz, because you were here one moment and gone the next, and now it's years later down the track. And so, fill us in.
I lived in Tilapia for around Parramatta Way for quite a few years to start with, but I did do little athletics in Hornsby. They had every Saturday they had little athletics there, and my sister used to go there, and so I decided to join in one day, and I wasn't very good in the other events, but it seemed to me when I come to the longer distances, they seemed to work for me. So I used to run 800s and 400s, and I think we had a 1500 when I was 11, and that's where it kind of kicked off, I guess.
You made your name as a distance runner primarily in the fun run circuits around Sydney with Andy Lloyd. And before this interview started, we were talking how Andy was a few years older than you, but he used to take you with him to run these fun runs, and after a few years you got nearer and nearer to him, and so he was a big influence on your becoming a top level runner.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I grew up running with Lloydie, and he was always a few steps ahead of me, but so there was no pressure on me when I turned up to these fun runs, and I tried to hang on as long as I could, and as I got older, I got a bit closer, and we ended up having some good tussles. Sometimes I got the better of him, and most times he got the better of me. But yeah, like I say with Lloydie, like everybody knows, you have to get clear of him before the last 400 or half a K, otherwise he's got you, and yeah, that's the way it was. But I think that's how I probably got a lot better running with Lloydie, and that's how it kind of worked out, I guess.
Tell me about your Olympic representation in the marathon. It wasn't for Australia.
Going back before that, why I ended up going to Switzerland was that I got a phone call. I was going to run Stockholm Marathon back in '87, and I got a phone call from the Australian Federation. I think it was Maury Plant that called me up, and he said, "I heard you're running Stockholm," and I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "How are you ringing me here, And he said to me, "Well, you can't run Stockholm." Those days they had this rule where you couldn't run a marathon either side of the Australian Championships, otherwise they could ban you. That's what he said to me. They would ban me if I didn't run the Australian Championship, or I wasn't allowed to run Stockholm. So I talked to Dick Telford, he was my coach at that time, and he said, "Well, we should maybe go for it." And I spoke to Maury, and he said to me, "Okay, if you qualify for Rome for the World Championships, they would take me." So I agreed with Dick, and I said, "Okay, let's make an effort, and I'll go back there." And long story short, I ran. It was bad conditions in Sydney, but I ran 2:14:36, I think it was. So it was a qualifier, and the very next day they picked somebody else. So that kind of was a bit annoying. So obviously those days you just moved on and had a bit of a moan. You didn't do anything about it. And then it happened again in the Olympics. I figured that I reckon I deserved to go in the Olympics as well. There was only ever one spot because obviously Rob and Mona had run pretty quick. So it was hard to get in a team. There was some good runners in Australia. And after I didn't get in that team, I figured I'd go and run Twin Cities on the same time as the Olympics in '88, and ended up winning Twin Cities just to show that I was fit for that, make a bit of a point. And then I decided just to move to Switzerland. And funny enough, I thought about it beforehand as well, because I ran the cross country, the World Cross Country for Australia in '86. Ironic enough, it was in Switzerland. So going back there, it kind of made me feel, do I really belong here, or do I belong in Australia? So that kind of changed my mind as well a little bit. And I thought, well, why not? Then let's go to Switzerland. I was born there. I was there for 8 years before we immigrated. And that's where it went, really. And I went over there and they looked after me. And yeah, that's how it kind of started. And I knew that if I qualified over there, you know, I had to run under 212 to get in the Swiss team. But I knew that if I'd run that, there wasn't going to be a lot of runners that are going to run around that time. So I'd probably get in. And as it happened, I broke the Swiss record and they selected me.
I don't think many Australians know that story. I didn't before we started talking. One thing I didn't realise either is that you married Jill Hunter. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
I remember her name. She was exceptionally good over longer distances like 10 miles or half marathon or 10,000.
Yeah, I think those days used to be like 25K. Half marathon wasn't that that popular, but she did have a world best, I think, for 25K and 10 miles. She had a world best. I think she was quite good on the roads in the States. Later on, when she wanted to move to marathon, I think a bit of mileage kind of broke it down, and she never ended up running a marathon. Yeah, we met in World Champs in '91, but we didn't really kick it off from there. Just she had a house in Albuquerque, and I used to go and train there in Albuquerque, and just friends there for a long time. 95, she said in the background. I don't even know what year. Oh, now she's telling me it's 96. What do I know? But we married in Florida, in St. Augustine, and yeah, and then we weren't running that well at that stage. I just couldn't get. I was just getting slower and slower, and then I didn't know why, and I was trying, but it didn't work. And Jill had a few injury problems, so we left for England after that, and we married in. Like I said, we married in America, and then we headed for England for about 7 years, and yeah, we had some children there, and we had a child in Cairns as well, where we live now.
Are you still running?
I try. I'm on and off, but I've put on a bit of weight, obviously, as you can see. But I've got some knee problems, so my doctor reckons it's just from putting on weight. But I have fixed one knee up. That kind of repaired itself, so I've got like one knee problem now. So I tend to walk a fair bit, walk up the hills. They've got some big hills here that I can get up, and they don't seem to hurt my knees. So I find a lot of the runners that I know back in the day when we have a few reunions in Sydney, the ones that aren't running is obviously the knees are the problems. I'll get it better. I'll get ready for maybe Tokyo next year. We'll be right. See how we go.
2021.
2021.
Danny, what was your best race where you couldn't have got another bit out of yourself?
I guess there was a few races in Switzerland that I had that I thought I did pretty well. My fastest marathon, I think I had a fair bit left there, but I was a bit unsure on the early parts of that race, and I ran a bit too slow at the start at the first half, and then realised that I wasn't getting tired. So then I took off at about 30 Ks, trying to catch Mark Larcher's in Los Angeles, and I couldn't quite get him, but I ran out of kilometres really to catch him. But so I've had a few good ones that I thought, and maybe the 10K in Zatapac at that stage, and that was a bit of a surprise, I guess, for me and for a lot of guys in that race. They ran fast that day. Must have been something in the air, maybe. I think there was must have been 10 guys around that 28, 40 sub, and I think Mark Boucher, like we talked about, he's I think he was around that 28, 43 or something.
Oh, I think he was 33. He might, in his memory, be faster again than that, but
yeah. But then there was a few others, there, and I think I was only third in that race, and I think Harrison was fourth, and there might have been Mel in between somewhere, and Adam had a PB there. I think he ran about 28, 21, I think, as far as I remember. So, so I probably had got the best out of me on that race, I would say, definitely. I just didn't improve on that one. That's the only problem. But I didn't really run that many 10Ks, to tell you the truth. I kind of stuck to the roads. You know, I wasn't working, so I had to make a living off the roads, to be honest. And that's what I did, you know. And I went to Switzerland. I did run for the club, a couple of 10K. I got a couple of Swiss 10K titles to my name on the track. I just found I just ran better on the roads. But then as soon as I felt like I was slowing down, I would say, oh, look, I better get on track for a little while. And so I'd get on the track for about 2 months and do a lot of track work and, you know, run the odd 5K or 10K and then back to the roads. You know, you seem to get your speed back on the track. And I probably didn't give myself enough go on the track to run really fast, I guess. Yeah, I kind of went a wrong direction, I would say. I probably, if I had my time back on that part, I'd probably stay on the track. And I'm sure I had a sub 28 in me, but I guess that's all hindsight.
What advice would the Danny Boltz of today give to the Danny Boltz of 40 years ago, to that 18-year-old kid?
It's kind of hard to say whether I should have run that many fun runs. You know, whether that kind of you know, it didn't burn me out in that sense, but whether it maybe slowed me down a little bit. You know, I was running City to Surf when I was 14. You know, I was running 48 minutes City to Surf, and 15, I think I was 46 minutes at 15-year-old. You know, and I think that was now to this day, if you say that to a 14 or 15-year-old, say, oh, you should be running those distances, you know. And even when I was 17, I had a training run. I ran a marathon with Lloydie, just a training run. It was a Manly race, and I think we ran 250 when I was 17. That wasn't really the wise way to start a career. But I guess we just did what we did, you know. We never really planned it as where you're going to go next or what's happening in the future. It was, you know, it was more weekly than yearly, I guess. It's only later on when I did run some of those faster times, I thought, well, maybe I've got something in me, you know. And in Switzerland, I did take it a lot more serious. I was training pretty hard there, and you know, and I guess it showed in the marathon. I did get some improvement once I was over there. But so I would probably say, listen to your coach more. You know, don't go out as much. Don't have too many parties. You know, the way I guess we used to run. We used to have a lot of parties and run races. You know, I guess that probably didn't help. But yeah, just stay sensible for the young kids and grow up a little wiser. You know. But other than that, who knows? You know, who knows that I might have, if I hung around Australia and I didn't run those things, I mightn't have gone to Switzerland. You know, and it might have just, I might have found it boring. I might have stopped running, you know, because it wasn't really, you're always racing the same people in Australia. It was always the same people in the fun runs. It was the same people on the track, even though the standard was pretty good. It was always the same people. And I guess in Switzerland, all of a sudden you're running in Italy and in France and in Sweden and, you know, all around the world, and you're meeting different people. And it was quite, I think that made it probably a little bit more interesting on that sense to keep going, you know. And most people, I mean, all the people that I've ever met overseas, they were always nice and wanting to help you. You know, I trained with Pizzolato and Johnny Polly a lot, and when I went to St. Moritz, and they were always there to help, you know, give you some tips on what you should be doing. And even, for instance, one time I did it, I met through this coach guy that I was training with. He knew Alberto Kova, and I met Kova, which I was a bit in awe, you know, when you meet someone like him who's won, you know, world champs and all the rest. And he was injured. He was just coming back, and I had to do a 10-mile tempo run. And I didn't know him from a bar of soap. And he'd come over, and like I knew him for, you know, 5 years, 10 years. And he says, oh, I'll come and pace you. So there's Kova on a bike in front of me, giving me, you know, my tempo for my 10-mile tempo run. It was quite crazy, really, you know. it was good experience, really. The people over there, and Marcus Riffel, obviously he was a good Swiss athlete, you know, medalist in the Olympics 5,000. I think he was silver in Los Angeles. And, you know, he helped me a fair bit as well over there. Always nice and looked after you. So, no, I probably have no regrets from that end, definitely.
What are you doing now then, Danny?
Oh, I just drive a few buses around. I don't own the business now. I just drive for somebody and, yeah, do that. Look after the kids. It's kind of busy. My young boy, he likes fishing. So, you know, so I was forced to buy a boat there to go fishing with him. And actually, my 16-year-old, he's not a bad runner. Hopefully, he's going to be up there later on. So he's running pretty good. Keep him busy with the kids, and that's probably pretty much the lifestyle, I would say.
What you haven't said is that you've got this large running group there in Cairns.
Jill's really the founder of Pace Project. If you wanted to have a look at Pace Project on the internet, you'll see we've got a bunch of kids. We've got about 75 kids in this group, and Jill's the coach. And we've got some great people behind the club. It's an actual official club, and we're out of those 75 kids last season before this COVID. 56 made state championships out of those 75 kids. So great group. They're committed. They're a bit, I think up here in the North Queensland, I think we're probably just lacking a few races. You know, we have to make that trip down to Brisbane with him, but that's fine. You know, we'll put up with that. It's a pretty nice area to live in. So yeah, but that's going really well, and Bill loves it, and we like it, and yeah, so I advise people to have a check out Pace Project. Give it a thumbs up.
Well, I think I have on the Facebook anyway. Great talking with you, Danny. Thanks a lot, Danny.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Yeah, look after yourself.
Okay.
Yep. See you, buddy.
Okay, see ya.